Hey, 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 how's everybody doing? I gotta text my kids to tell them to not jump on the carpet, jump on the floor. We get the loud gene. I get it from my mom's side, I'm pretty sure. Is that right, Mom? Are you there? Oh, welcome everybody to the program tonight. We have really two parts to the show. I want to talk about Genesis 3, and I want to tie that into what's happening today in movies, and then promote this new movie that's coming out. Hopefully August 2024, Triumph of the Heart. Director Anthony D'Ambrosio. I had a chance to talk with him, and we'll get into that in a little bit. For those of you that are watching now or later on, please continue to pray for our mission. And our mission is for men and women to experience the love and power of the living God. That's what we're trying to do here with Mission Blueprint and this Glengower podcast. And we try to cover lots of different topics, church and state. Anyway, so I wanted to get into that. Also, for those who are watching, please pray for our men's conference this weekend. We have a men's conference February 3rd, Saturday, February 3rd in Brookings, South Dakota at the old sanctuary. We're going to have such a great time. For the men who come, I'm telling you, you're going to laugh a lot. And you're going to get was it Lynn Swan who said that? I was talking to the team last, I think it was Lynn Swan. It might have been one of the Pittsburgh Steelers was interviewed in the 70s. Who was that? Anybody know? But they asked, how can you be a Christian and a football player? And he said something like, I hit him with the love of Jesus. Yeah, that's what's going to happen at the conference as well. In a very gentle tap, God is going to speak to you, and you're going to get a gold nugget. We have two great speakers. It's going to be great. But let's get into tonight's content. Tonight is movie night. We're not going to watch a movie, but we're going to talk about the movie coming out, Triumph of the Heart. And I've been thinking about movies a lot. You all grew up in movies, watching movies. We all grew up watching TV. The tube, right? We call that the boob tube. And our eyes, from the time I was an infant, my eyes, of course not all the time, but my eyes have been formed by a screen. Yours too, most of you. And I just think it's fascinating in the 20th century, audio and video married at the same time. Can you hear me okay? Let me know if you can't. But there was a marriage of audio and video. And that's where people got their news. That's where people were entertained. And the interaction became very, very different amongst our culture. So things have really changed. And the screen is more in our lives now than it ever has been. I'm looking at a screen, I'm looking at a camera, and I'm talking to you long distance. I mean, that's as crazy as airplanes flying in the sky to me. So we've been formed by what we see. And in a way, television has become the deposit of truth. People just believe it because it's on TV. I was talking to a relative years ago, and she told me a crazy story. I won't tell you who it is, but she was telling me a crazy story. And I said, where did you hear that? She said, it was on TV. Well, I did some digging and it wasn't true. And people will believe about anything because they see it. And what's really scary about modernity is that in this digital age, especially with AI, somebody can take my image and totally make my image and my voice and create a video and have me speak and teach something that's totally heretical, and it's not even me. And some of you who are watching me that know me know it is Glengower, but if you're in India, how do you know? You don't know it's me. You've never met me. It's the crazy world that we live in. Now, where does all this come from? Right? What is the source of all this? Well, we got to go all the way back to the garden. Now, I'm going to make a point, and if I don't make a point, somebody tell me, hey, what the heck are you even talking about? Our eyes are the window to the soul. When we are born, we experience truth through our senses. One of those is sight. What we see is what we experience. And I would even argue audibly, our ears are probably more, they're probably affected in a greater way than our eyes even, the audio. If you watch a movie and turn the sound off, it can be silly. We were watching Star Wars the other night, and my oldest son said, because I paused it because it was a bad scene, but I muted it rather. I muted it because it was a bad scene, and we were watching it without any sound on. It looked completely ridiculous. So I would also argue that audio is very important. But our eyes are so key as far as our senses. And there is a propheticness to our eyes. St. Paul says, keep your eyes fixed on Christ. And there's a reason he says that. He says it because we can be easily fooled. Now, no man that I know wants to be fooled. And because of particularly the males, our sin is pride. Pride is our sin. We think we're right. We think we're right about everything. And we think we know everything in general. But that's just really true. Women aren't that way. I think women are a bit more balanced. You have other issues. But if we go back all the way to the garden, we see the first time in history that we know of, right? The first time in history where man and woman were completely fooled. So Adam and Eve, they had what is called the preternatural gifts, right? They had original holiness. And there's two others, right? I can't think of what are the other two? Original holiness, original purity. I can't remember the other two, but they had the preternatural gifts. So they're like superhuman beings. They weren't stained by sin like you and I are. When we are born, we have this inclination to sin, which means to miss the mark, right? It's hard for us to be righteous or to live in doing right. Because in the end, our actions are what matters. It's not what we believe, it's what comes out of us. So in the garden, Adam and Eve, particularly Eve, she got tricked. If you go to Genesis chapter 3, you should take another look at that. Spend some time. Because if you pay attention, Eve can't even represent God's own words. She gets them mixed up. Well, something happens to her, right? Something happens to her. And she gets confused. And through that confusion, right, she led Adam to reject God. And that's what they did. Men and women rejected God. Why am I talking about this? Because if they can get confused, so can you. So can I. So how do you couple that with movies and TV? Well, if television forms us, what goes in is what comes out, right? And if Disney is forming you and your kids, what goes in does come out. And pretty soon, I see this in my own kids. All they want to do is watch TV. I mean, they'd watch TV a lot, 3, 4, 5 hours a day if we'd let them. Now, would they get sick of it eventually? Probably. So we need to counter that. This is my point. That needs to be countered. And how do you counter that? Well, with good movies. Movies that teach the truth. I don't know about you, but I don't think Hollywood has my best interest in mind. I just don't think so. Don Knotts, when he was dying, his daughter had been talking to him about getting into acting. And he said, stay out of Hollywood. And I've heard that of others, just stay out of Hollywood. So the question is, who is forming you? That's the question of tonight. Who's forming you? Is your head in the screen? Or is your head in the scriptures? Now, we can avoid the screen for most part. I mean, somewhat. That's just how we communicate now. we can't avoid the screen for most part. But we can certainly avoid the Bible. And God is the source of truth, not the television screen, certainly not Hollywood. God is the source of truth. And you're going to only find truth in the person of Jesus Christ. He says, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. He's truth. We need good media, good Catholic media. And we need quality Catholic media. Now, there's a Christian company, I can't remember their name. They started coming out with movies over 10 years ago. And God bless them. It was at least something. It was at least an alternative, let me just say it that way. And they have gained some money and got better writers and better actors, and they're doing really great. And kudos to the Christians who are doing that. Catholics, you got to get your act together as well. You need to make some great films. I think the two last great Catholic films, and you'll hear this in the interview, is Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ and then Father Stu. I think Mark Wahlberg either produced it or directed it, but he was highly involved. So we need some great, great Catholic movies. And my favorite movie was the Academy Award movie, one of my favorites, maybe my favorite, the Academy Award movie in, I think, 1965, A Man for All Seasons. Have you guys watched that movie? Has anybody seen that movie? Let me know. And what is your favorite Catholic movie? Just kind of type it in there. I think mine is A Man for All Seasons. I mean, I wouldn't put Passion of the Christ there because who wants to keep watching that? And it doesn't, not that I need to be entertained all the time, but you just don't keep watching The Passion of the Christ. I actually never want to see that movie again. I don't need to. But A Man for All Seasons, Academy Award winner, I think in 65 or 66, is probably my favorite Catholic movie. But we need to bombard the media. We need to take over. One of the things I learned from Bishop Chaput, now former Archbishop of Philadelphia, I think he's retired, is to take over. We need to take over. And Catholics, we need to step up. And our money needs to go in the right spots. I think every Catholic Christian and every Christian should be really, really prayerful about where your money is going. And I would really ask the Lord, do you want my money to go there? It's up to you. But we got to be very careful. Now, I want to move into, see if I've got this lined up right. I want to move into, let's see here, this group, Triumph of the Heart. This is a Facebook page here. This is their Kickstarter announcement. Let's see, let me click on here once. Where does that take you? Yeah, this is their Facebook page here, Triumph of the Heart. And if you go to, let me just type that in quick. If you go to the Triumph, I think it's Triumph, not The Triumph. I do this wrong all the time. When I was talking to Anthony, he said The Triumph, but I don't think he meant it. This is the website for the Triumph of the Heart. And the Triumph of the Heart, they're making a movie about St. Kolbe. Now, another great movie, if you haven't seen it, is 12 Angry Men. Have you seen that movie? My boys love it. My whole family loves it. Even my younger boys love that movie. And this movie, Triumph of the Heart, is 12 Angry Men meets The Passion of the Christ. And so these 10 guys, there's Kolbe right there. These 10 guys are in a cell before Kolbe dies. And I love the director's take on it. So if you go to triumphoftheheart.com, learn more about this movie. Beautiful artwork. I love the storyline. There is an 18-minute clip you can watch. I'm not going to show that to you. I will leave a link in my show notes, if not tonight, tomorrow morning, where you can watch that. But this is Triumph of the Heart here. A great movie about St. Kolbe. Now, St. Kolbe is also one of my favorite saints of the church because I got to see his jail cell. And that was quite a experience. I'll never forget when I was in Austria. I lived in Austria for 4 months and got to study abroad. And one of the places we wanted to go for sure was Auschwitz. So you got to go to Krakow, and then it's right outside of Krakow. I can't pronounce the name, but you can go and see Auschwitz. And Auschwitz, there's Auschwitz one and Auschwitz two. Auschwitz one is the one right next to Krakow. They're right next. They're not next to each other, but there's two concentration camps. And the one that everyone sees in the movies is Auschwitz one. So when I was there, we just got on campus, and I heard some pounding, and it was very, very bizarre because I had the Requiem Mass, the Mozart's Requiem Mass in my head, and we sang that in college at Northern State University, and I love that mass. And that whole time I was in Auschwitz, that Requiem Mass was just going through my whole being, and it was very eerie, to be honest with you. So it was a very eerie experience. But I got to see St. Colby's cell, and there was some sunshine there for me, and it was really, really wonderful. So I want to show you the interview now. How did I get this interview? I don't know how I got this interview. My niece texted me and said you should check these guys out, and Jamie said, well, maybe you should try to get an interview. And I emailed them, and they responded pretty fast, really, for a small company, and it didn't take long, and I was talking to Anthony. So I'm going to play the interview now. It's about 27 minutes, and then I'll come back on. Hold on. Try this again. Hey, welcome back to the podcast, everybody. We have Anthony D'Ambrosio with you here. This is our third try. It appears that somebody does not want this out, but we're going to move forward. Anthony, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you so much, Glenn, for having me on. I'm really excited to be here.
You are welcome. Tell my viewers a little bit about yourself.
Well, yeah, I'm the son of a theologian, a professional Catholic. I have spent the last 10 years of my life trying to bring the gospel to millennials and to young people, particularly to those who are outside of the church. And right now, I'm working on making a film about Saint Maximilian Kolbe and his passion. But I'm sure that you've got more detailed questions to get into. But that's the top line. That's the top layer.
I have a great love for St. Colby. One of my boys is named after him, and I was able to visit his cell in 1996 in Auschwitz. So this goes deep for me. So I'm really excited about this interview. Why did you make the movie?
Yeah, it's a good question and rather deep one. I think that for me, I've experienced a lot of struggle and a lot of suffering in my life, and a lot of doubt and struggle in my faith as well. And I found that the story of Colby really spoke to me in an unexpected way during one of these seasons of suffering and doubt, in a way that really helped to save my faith and to give me hope when I was facing what felt like an impossible circumstance, that felt meaningless and like it didn't have purpose. And I think that Colby and his story really showed me how to navigate doubt and suffering and difficulty and trial, um, how to navigate that experience of life that where when something goes completely wrong and there is no salvaging it, what do you do, and how do you relate with God in that circumstance? And so it felt to me very relevant. Like I think there's a lot of people in my generation who really need a witness in that kind of space in their life, and so I would say that I just want to bring hope to the world, and I think Colby's story is one of the most hopeful stories that I've heard in my life.
So In talking to your sister, you yourself got pretty sick, didn't you?
Yeah, I went through a undiagnosed infection that really sidelined my life. I just graduated from seminary and was kind of ready to take on the world, fell in love, had God really speak to me about kind of this is the person that you're going to marry, and was on track to get married. We're about to get engaged, and um, this infection kind of came up out of what seemed like nowhere, and nobody knew what to do with it. It was really difficult um, to tag down as one of these kind of strange diseases that took really many, many years to get diagnosed. And so, in the meantime, I was unable to sleep more than a couple hours a night, really difficult cognitive issues and emotional issues and weird physical ailments that came along with it, all that made um, doing normal life rather impossible. And I wasn't able to move forward in marriage. I had no idea what I could possibly do in my career. Just as a man, it was like everything in that my future was supposed to be was kind of taken away from me. Very Job kind of moment. And in the midst of that, I really um, was grappling with my faith. Like, how could God allow something like this to happen? Um, lots of late nights where I'm up in the middle of the night alone, just sort of my faith unraveling. And in those times, I found a really unexpected comfort. I don't know if you've ever had an experience of a saint kind of coming to you and picking you, but I had this uh, strange kind of dreamlike meditation that would begin to happen of me having these honestly like drag out faith debates with Maximilian Kolbe inside of the cell. I was I felt like I was experiencing the story from the perspective of the men who he joined in the starvation bunker. I wasn't starving for food, but I was starving for sleep, and that was a real, very real starvation. And so, in that place, I was having these conversations with him about faith and about God and about hope, and it really changed my perspective on so many things about the faith and about Jesus. And so, yeah, I think it really gave me a lot of hope, and that's part of how the movie, the beginning of the movie idea came to me.
That's excellent. I love the hope part of your answer, honestly. So, in the movie, The Triumph of the Heart, you have several characters. How did you narrow down each character? Were they friends of yours? Did you imagine this? Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's another great question. So, in this time in Auschwitz, we have a pretty good idea of the types of people who were there. We don't have any data. Unfortunately, the Germans didn't keep any records of who exactly was in the cell with Colby. We only know who died that month. We just have records of the names of those who passed at that in that place in that month. And um, one of the things that I didn't know, and that most people I think don't know about Auschwitz at the time, is that we really know of it as a part of the Holocaust, but before that, it was actually an extermination camp for breaking the identity and the leadership of Poland. It was used to exterminate people who had some sort of leadership capacity, but I think even more so, it was used to sort of break the soul, break the spirit of the Polish people, so that the Nazis could really enslave them. And so there would have been people there who were involved in leadership. There would have been POWs. There would have been um, people who were strong kind of leaders in the Polish army, Polish resistance. There would have been people who were in media. Of course, this is part of how Colby was brought there. So you have this kind of slice of the upper echelons of Polish society that are all brought to such devastation, and ultimately brought to sort of the end of their humanity in this place. And that's really what the goal of the Nazis were. So I determined who I would put in the cell based on some of the averages of the types of people who were present.
Cool. That's wonderful. Yeah, because I
Hmm.
wondered how in the world. I mean, you got to come up with all these, several different personalities and what they're longing for. Very, very interesting. So, you're kind of crazy, man. I heard you took a film crew and flew to Poland, and did you fly to Krakow?
We went to Warsaw, actually, is where we landed, and then we shot the film in Łódź, which is a an hour and a half west of Warsaw.
So, how did you determine where, like the site of the location site? How did you choose that?
Yeah, it's there's a sort of beggars can't be choosers kind of situation. We were trying to be both beggars and choosers, and ultimately God allowed us to be that, which was amazing. But we were looking around Warsaw, somewhere that we would be able to find enough, I guess. There has to be enough things in a place to be able to do a film there. There's got to be lodging close. There's got to be maybe an airport close. There's got to be a place for parking for all of these different people who are coming in and out. There's got to be power, a power station where you can draw power for your lights and your cameras and all the batteries. And you've got many different departments that are all working together. You've got the costume department, you've got the hair and makeup department. They all need their own spaces. So we had to find a prison cell that was an old prison cell that we could repaint, that we could make safe, that we could do lots of like renovations on, but that also had all of this other infrastructure around it. And it was looking for a needle in the haystack in Poland, but actually there were quite a few options, and we did find one that was able to work within our price, and that's kind of how it all came together. Like, how close is it and convenient is it to get to from the other places that you're shooting, things like that. It's a massive project to put all of that together with all the dates. It's like, if you could imagine, if you've ever been involved in planning a wedding, um, it's or a retreat or something, it's like doing that, but times 10 for 30 days in a row. That's basically what it is. So you have a lot of logistics. God bless the producers that put all that together.
And it really is a faith journey, not
Hmm.
starting with you. I mean, maybe starting with you. It's a faith journey. The producers have to get on board. You have to find actors. How did you find the actors for this role or for this movie?
Yeah, it's a good question. We had, I would say that as people started to find this project, people just started coming to us. I posted casting calls, I posted crew calls all over the internet, just on my social media, in different Catholic groups, and all of a sudden people would see it and be like, "Wow, this is really cool. My friend is an actor and he fits that part," or "Wow, that my uncle actually is an actor and he seems like he has a face that would be similar to this kind of thing." And slowly but surely, people just found their way to us that wanted to be involved. We put it up on a bunch of different secular sites as well, and we had a pretty good mix of people who are Catholic who worked on it and people who are not, which I always think is really powerful and profound, because you get to build this culture that is evangelical even in its nature, in the act of producing the art. So we found an incredibly deep faith journey that we all embarked on together, and the amount of conversion that happened even in the context of the creation of the thing, the amount of healings and hearts being changed and moved, it's indescribable. It's indescribable how much of that was going on.
So back in the early 2000s, we all know The Passion of the Christ came out. I remember watching Mel Gibson on Jay Leno, and it was a fascinating interview. And Mel was very careful with the wording because he said, I made this movie, but God really helped me. As you were filming this movie, were there moments where you thought, oh my goodness, this is only the Holy Spirit that can be doing this because this was not predictable?
Wow, there's so many of them. Um, there's so many of them. It really was a daily experience. I so underestimated what we would need to make this movie. Just as a beginner, as a first timer, um, I wildly underestimated it. And I had a lot of people who told me that I was underestimating the amount of money it would cost, the amount of time it would take, how difficult it would be to find the people or the places, all of that stuff. But I for whatever reason, God decided that He was not going to let us fail and kept bringing the person or the thing that we needed exactly at the very last minute, mind you, but exactly at the time that we needed it, and not a moment sooner. He would bring us the person or thing that we needed. A good example of this would be um, we were shooting these big Auschwitz scenes, these scenes where uh, that are everybody's familiar with, the lineup where Kolbe is sort of picked out of line and sorry, Francis Guy Nietzsche is picked out of line and Kolbe steps out to trade his life. These are scenes where we have over 100 extras involved. We have dogs, we have German vehicles driving up and down the road, and it's a lot of moving parts. And we needed, in order to make that scene really believable, we needed a stunt person who could coordinate all of the stunts. And I didn't realize this before I did it, but usually if anybody's going to be beaten, they have to be able to respond in a way that feels really believable. And there's a lot of that in Auschwitz. It's Auschwitz. Like, you're not going to be gently pulled out of line. You're going to be like hit with clubs and stuff. And so we had all of these extras that were kind of set up for this, but we didn't realize that they were all going to have to perform these stunts. And so we needed somebody who was a really good stunt coordinator who could teach them very quickly how to respond to these beatings, and who could also help to make those look really believable. Otherwise, it would make that whole scene look, the whole scene would just be complete, yeah, catastrophe if you had somebody that was getting hit by a club and they just kind of like inched over a little bit or overreacted to it, as many extras do. So we did not have a stunt coordinator uh, even up to 3 days before the shoot.
Oh, wow, no kidding.
we were we were just sweating because um, a good stunt coordinator is very expensive. We didn't have any money to pay anybody, and so we needed somebody who could be there and do it for very cheap. And I got a call from um, our main actor who plays Colby, who's also a director who's done other films in the Polish market. And he was like, "Hey, I have this friend Tomasz. He does stunts. Do you guys need somebody that does that?" We're like, "Yes, yes." He's like, "Okay, he loves Colby. He might be willing to do something for you guys. Just give him a call." And I'm talking to him, and he's just this really gentle, kind of fatherly presence. And he says, "Yeah, I'll bring my daughter, and I'll bring a couple of my teammates out who will help to perform some of the beatings and stuff, so that you guys don't have to teach extras to do all of that. And it's going to be great, and I'll take the whole kind of managing the extras for you off your plate for very, very cheap." And I happen to also be available because this actor strike that's happening in the U.S. And so then I looked up his accolades, and it turns out that the last movie that he was working on was Mission Impossible. He was Tom Cruise's stuntman. Or stunt coordinator. He doesn't need a stuntman, but he was a coordinator for him. So this guy was like super high up in the industry, and out of his love for Colby, was willing to help us make this movie a reality. And things like that were happening the entire time that we were in Poland. That's just one of thousands of moments like that.
What do you want viewers to get out of the movie? Earlier, you talked about hope. I mean, hope is really I think, important in the times we're living right now. But what do you want the viewers to get out of the movie?
I would like the viewers to get what I got out of it, which is a a hope in life, even in the midst of disappointment, darkness, and trial. I think as Christians, I don't know exactly like how you see kind of the world at this point, but I think that many of us feel like we're living in rather apocalyptic times. Um, I've certainly experienced persecution, and in very small and subtle ways, I think it's becoming harder and harder to be a Christian, and to have material success, or to live in the world with like this sort of standards of living that other people have that are kind of the normies out there, if that makes sense. And I think that is only going to get more and more difficult. Uh, Not to mention, I think the economic constraints that are being placed on us even more now, and will continue to be so, I believe. And so I think all of that together makes for a rather disillusioning experience. Many of people of my generation and coming generations are jaded. They're finding it very difficult to trust anything anybody says, and have developed a rather like gallows humor, um, that might be finding humor in this like sort of nihilistic worldview of everything kind of going down. And I think that as Catholics, we get to provide an alternative to that. Um, the cross is a beautiful sign, and we as Catholics, we don't take the Christ off of it, right? Like we look at the crucifixion and we say this is really where we connect with Jesus right now. Like the resurrection's coming, but right now in this mass, in this church at this time, our connection with Jesus is through the crucifixion. And um, because we are not willing to, I think historically speaking, dress it up and take Christ off the cross and present a everything gets better at the end, um, of every story kind of like movie or perspective on faith. We have a very um, like gnarly kind of heavy metal, like very grounded faith that presents hope without painting a pretty picture that just glosses over the hard parts. And I think that is really a perspective that's needed in the world right now, and one that I feel like as mature Catholics, this story can really help us uh, to deepen.
So, when will I get to see the movie?
It's a good question. Right now, we're running a crowdfunding um, that is very important because how this crowdfunding goes will very much determine the distribution deal that we get on the back end. The more people contribute, even small amounts, the more that they will see that there's a huge market for this, that Catholics really want to see not just this movie, but movies like this. I think that when you're trying to do something new, distributors really don't want to take a risk, right? And since The Passion of the Christ, there have not been lots of Catholic movies that have been successful. I would say Father Stu has been a really good example of something that has done rather well. But even then, he had to really distribute it himself and fund pretty much the whole process of it. And so hats off to Marky Mark for making that happen. But I think now there's some eyes on faith-based content, and distributors who are watching this will determine not just when but how. Like if this gets a theatrical release, if it's going to be given that kind of momentum, that will be determined by how this crowdfunding campaign goes. But our hope is that August will be when we get to see it brought out to the world.
August 2024, you're thinking.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Great. Do you have any more movies in the works for the future?
I actually have quite a few. None that I'm like completely free to talk about at this point, but I will just say that we have some really, really fun, really beautiful ideas. Hopefully, ones that are a little bit less intense than Auschwitz. I think that our team is going to need a break. We were all like, we need to do a comedy next. So, yeah, you have a couple of really beautiful movies that are in the works, and if this one goes well, will give us the opportunity to bring to the world.
Excellent. Where can our viewers go to find out more information about you and the crowdfunding to help you guys?
Yeah, the triumphoftheheart.com, or if you want to go directly to the crowdfunding campaign, you can put in Colby's prisoner number, which is 16670.life.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on the program. We will all be praying for you and your team. And God bless you guys. And thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much, Glenn. Third time's the charm, huh? Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, God bless you. We will be praying for you.
Yeah, God bless you too, Glenn. I'll talk to you later.
All right. So that's the interview. If you're going to go to the Triumph of the Heart, it's actually triumphoftheheart.com. That's triumphoftheheart.com, not the Triumph of the Heart. And I got that wrong. One of the things I wanted to do is find, they don't have a trailer yet. They're working on it. But I think, let me see here. Let me go back here and see if I can find, there is a scene. If I go back here, let me go back here. I think I'm going to try to play this here for you.
You know the rules. I will choose 10 of you to starve until the missing prisoner is found or until death.
Well, that sounds terrible. Wonder why. Let me try it again. Let me refresh this. Well, I better not. Let me try this again. I don't know why that sounds so bad.
You know the rules. I will choose 10 of you to starve.
Well, let me just click this link here. I don't know. Has anybody had bad internet today? I have not had great internet. There's the link if you want to watch that. It's not a trailer, but it is like a trailer. And then they show you 2 to 3 minutes of the movie, and then Anthony comes on, and then I think the executive producers come on. So it gives you a flavor of what it's like. And I tell you, I am really tickled pink. I can't wait. Hey, pink, no pun intended, I'm wearing a pink shirt. You know why I'm wearing this shirt? Because my daughter loves this shirt. She always says, Papa, you're going to wear that pink shirt again. So I wore it for her tonight anyway. So I'm going to enjoy the movie. If you like 12 Angry Men, I think you're going to love this movie. Bring a real richness and the beauty of the church. Yeah, I'm going to throw this up here. Look at this. Anybody else have this issue, Jen? Mine has too been sketchy. I restarted my computer twice, and my audio's been doing that, and I'm not sure why. There's other issues, I think, on the throughout some of the text, and even Telegram has been weird today. So anyway, that's the show. Any questions for me? I really enjoyed interviewing Anthony. I've never interviewed anyone before. And you would think I'd really do my homework, but I didn't know much about the gentleman. And he was sure a delight to talk to. I know he was on a time crunch, or at least I thought he was on a time crunch. And so I took about an hour to think about what do I want to ask him. And, just the basic questions. Why'd you make the movie? And I asked Claire that same question, and sometimes the obvious questions are the best ones. So I'm glad you liked the interview, Jen. Anyway, he was a delight to talk to. We got to support these people. We got to support good Catholic, good Christian content, and get our eyes off of that tube and onto some truth. Amen? Yeah, amen. Any questions for me? Trivia questions, baseball. Please, no soccer questions. I know nothing about soccer. Anyway, that's all I got. I hope you enjoyed the live. This interview can be found on Thursday. And again, go to that Facebook. I think that link should work. Go check it out. Let me try it one more time. I would love to show that. Do I dare refresh this page? Let me try refreshing it once. Yeah, that's weird. See what happens.
He knows the rules.
Yep. I don't know what the problem is. I don't know what the problem is. Hold on here. Yeah, I don't know what the problem is. Let's get back to reality here. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching the live. I'm going to call it a night. God bless you all. Please spread this podcast. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, why not? What the heck? It's not like you're getting charged $10 a month to watch me. Anyway, God bless you all. Have a great night.